All right, guys, on today's video, I want to show y'all a little bit what we're doing out in our nursery this time of year when it won't be but just a few more weeks until winter dormancy. Our first frost, our first freeze is, it's a month away, something like that. And one of the key things that you have to get done in your nursery this time of year is you have to get your plants pruned. Any plant that needs pruning in order for it to branch out more, to be nice and full and bushy instead of tall and lanky, it needs to be done this time of year. This may not be the only time of year it needs to be done, but it certainly needs to be done this time of year. So I want to show you a couple of different plants today. A spirea, and obviously you guys, if you're used to watching, hydrangeas, and maybe one or two other plants that have to be pruned even when they're little tiny plants in order to be nice and bushy come spring. And that's what we're shooting for. Really nice plants come next spring and into early next summer. Now here in front of me, here in front of me is a tray of gold flame spireas. Now the spirea is a really interesting little shrub. When I say little, 3 feet tall, 3 feet around, something like that. And this is one of the easiest shrubs I know of to propagate. Super easy to grow, not fussy. They overwinter well. They kind of meet all the criteria of plants that I'm looking for in my nursery. But one of the things about the spirea, this would be a 50 count tray here, and we may have 100% success rooting these, I don't know, but you can see some of these sticking up. I mean, and growing tall and lanky like this is not ideal. And truth be known, I should have pruned these earlier in the season and could have pruned them 2 or 3 times by now, but let me just kind of give you an idea of what these look like. So I know that makes kind of a funny shadow on that table and it makes that look bushier or bigger than it is, but that really has 3 branches on it, and by now the way that a spirea grows, that should have 10 branches on it and look a lot more bushy than that. But we've got a really nice looking root ball there. It's very well formed, and we're going to go through this tray and just prune every one of these. We'll just pull these up and pull each plant up into a little bunch in the top of it and clip the top out of it, cut it down to nothing really, and we'll do all of them. Won't take but just a few minutes, and it'll be kind of the pruned look for them going into the winter, into the fall season. So let me show you that. I'm going to take that plug and stick it back in the tray where it belongs, but just to show you these one at a time, here's one on the corner, and I'm going to just clip the tops out of it. You just go through these rather quickly and just clip all the tops out of them. You don't need to be very careful. Spirea is about as non-fussy of a plant as there is. Again, that's why it meets my criteria as a great plant for the backyard grower, because they're not real fussy. But you can see how this side of the tray here is quickly just becoming a mowed down mess. I mean, really and truly, the way that these look when I prune them is almost like you've run over the thing with a lawnmower. I mean, I'm not really taking any care here to be careful at all. I'm just cutting out all of this lanky growth. And these things, when you've got them in a tray like this, they will try to grow together and get tangled up. And if they do, it's not that big of a deal because you can just cut them down so hard. This is not, as you can see, anything that requires precision. There are things that we prune that we're going to be a lot more careful with than this, but it just simply, at this stage in their growth, it doesn't matter. So come next spring, we'll have these potted up by next spring, and next summer these will grow into really nice sized plants, and then by the following spring they'll be ready to sell. They'll look great because we will have done this to them multiple times by then. But this is really one of the keys to growing beautiful plants, is that you start pruning them when they're very young, that you keep them pruned through their life, and the goal is always to grow a nice full bushy plant. There's not any shrub that I can think of that really is at its best and it's really desirable for somebody to buy when it's tall and leggy and lanky. Obviously, if you're growing some sort of trees, that's completely different. You don't prune crepe myrtles like this, for example, but you prune hydrangeas like this, and you prune weigelas like this, and you prune spireas like this, and on and on you go with any sort of ornamental or flowering shrub. You just prune them really hard. Not much care at all, especially at this early point in their growth. And all it's going to do is make them really, really nice down the road. And then your finished product looks something like that. Just a mowed down, ugly mess, but no worries. We're not trying to make these pretty today. We're trying to make them pretty in a year and a half from now. This is one of the steps that's absolutely necessary in doing that. And these are my silver dollar hydrangeas. These are 3-gallon pots here. These are big plants in big pots, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 of these left. I started the season out with about 30 of them, sold them for I think $19 each. Some of them didn't look great. So what I'm going to do with these is they've got to be pruned too. Now, I kind of have a decision to make, and you know, it might be best to just throw these in the compost pile at this point and say, well, they just didn't sell, and that's fine. I mean, I propagated these myself. They're probably 3 years ago. Nothing lost here if I just chunk them, but sometime between now and spring, if I can get my hands on some bigger pots, say 5-gallon pots, maybe even 7-gallon pots, I might can pot up just these few in really big pots and get, you know, $30 or $40 a piece for them next year. These things will look incredible next year. They will be huge. They will fill up whatever size pots you want to fill them in as far as a big pot goes. No problem, up to probably at least 7 gallons anyway. I don't have any of those pots right now, but I might see if I can find some just for these. But anyway, what I'm trying to show you is even your plants that don't sell, particularly your flowering shrubs, you know, don't necessarily give up on them. If you've got the space, then just prune them, save them for next year, pot them up, and ask more for them. Worst thing that happens is they don't sell and you can throw them away. But, you know, it seems like it's at least worth a try, at least to see if I can find some pots. So I do think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to just hang on to these. But if I'm going to hang on to them through the winter, they need to be pruned. They need to, you know, have that compact look for them for over winter. And that's not really for the sake of winter, it's for the sake of how they're going to look next spring. But that being said, I'm just going to prune even these big silver dollar hydrangeas back, just like I did the limelights, just like I did with the spireas, all for the sake of having very, very bushy, healthy, full looking plants next spring. Less than a year from now, I might add. So just cut all this mess off and tidy up everything. If you've got any stragglers, any dead stuff in there, just cut it all out, and you're going to be in good shape. So I'm going to cut the rest of these, prune the rest of these, and we'll see what else we got. Yeah, so there we go. We've got 6 of these pots. I don't think they'll flush out great next year in these same pots. They're fairly root bound, so we'll definitely need to get bigger pots. But if we do that, then we'll see what they look like next year. And if we do that next year, I'll be glad to show them to you then. All right, guys, this is a little group of blue mist spireas here. Now, I'm going to show you a quick way to do this. These things are tall. I'd say they're about 3 feet tall, but I'm going to pull these up in a bunch, like a ponytail, and I'm going to just cut through all of that. You see that? Kind of the way that these grow, they lend themselves to being done this way. And that's going to make you a nice, quick prune job on some plants that are just like these others I'm showing you that desperately need it. So they may have 10 branches in there to prune, but you can make really quick work of it. So I'm just pulling that up like a ponytail, just in a bunch. Yeah, I had little girls. I'm a dude that knows something about ponytails. There you go. So you can make really quick work out of pruning. And look, you can do this with hydrangeas to some degree. You can do it with spireas too. I couldn't do it with those little tiny ones quite this well. But look, the point is, this doesn't take that much time to prune your plants, but you got to do it. And this has got to be done really this time of year. I mean, it's ideal to get it done this time of year, so they can have time to settle back into their pots, to go dormant, and when they wake up next spring, they are ready to go. So this is just part of the process of having a backyard nursery, is pruning plants. So guys, I just wanted to show y'all today just kind of a monotonous but really necessary and helpful chore, and that is pruning your plants, when to do it and why to do it. There may be other times of the year, certainly, to prune plants, but for any kind of flowering shrub, most any kind of flowering shrub, the fall is perfect time to do it. And I told you all the reasons why. So thank y'all for watching today. I love y'all, and I'll see you on the next one.